This is the history of Tate Baptist Church. The church was founded in 1862 by Reverend Ephraim Spratter during the Civil War. Matter of fact, the beginning of the Civil War. And our first building was built in 1862, but it was destroyed by fire. And since it was destroyed by fire, some of the deacons got together and decided to reconstruct another building. In 1916, we spent 56 years in our original building. And the second building that was built in 1916, which is the building that I joined church.
My mother used to take me to church. And then I had another lady, Sugar Sanders, William. She lived down there by us, so she went to church every Sunday, and she would take me. And when I converted, found Christ, because Sugar Sanders was the lady that I shook hands with to pray for me. And she did. And my mother, she always would make us mind in church. She always would teach us the right way in church. We wasn't no bad. If we had to be bad, she would take us out and bring us back. We'd sit down and be quiet. So this, I remember that.
One thing I can remember back in the day at this particular church, no matter who was in the church, all of the older people in the church, we all looked at them as our parents, even though we had parents, my father, Abraham, and my mom, Rosie, Virginia. But every member, every older person in that church helped raise us. Because whatever they say, like they take us outside, ain't nothing took us outside, bring us back, you know what to do. You set straight. And that's just how the older people was raised, and they raised us that way back in the day.
And back then, everybody had horse and buggy. 1862, 1916. So that was roads and trails all the way through here. Now, Tensas, if you guys came up 59, you know Tensas, and then you get the Little River. Right. It's pretty good distance. But back then, it wasn't. Yeah. Because there was roads through the woods. It was like 5 minutes you'd be in Tensas. They used to walk miles and miles on these roads through the woods to fellowship.
From the church.
Yeah. And matter of fact, the old members used to say, before church started, you could hear them coming to the church, singing hymns, praising God. And they started before they got there. Back in the day, them old ladies, members, they could pitch a hymn. If the men were slow, they'd pray, they would do it all. The Spirit would be there when all the other members got there.
I guess about 1.5 miles, I reckon. But we walked, we had to go around the mud hole. You know what a mud is. If you slip over in there, you're going to get all wet up. So we had to go around the mud hole. It was rough coming out from my house to the church. And then we get to the church, Mama would make us take our shoes off and wipe our feet with a towel and hang them on a bush till we get ready to come back. So when we go back, we do the same way. It was rough where I was living at. Remember, mud hole. But we came out anyway.
A little boy back off the Alabama River called Turkey Creek. And we didn't have a baptistry back in those days. So we used Turkey Creek as our baptistry place. And I guess I joined church now about 11 or 12 years old. Little old black hole, probably snakes and everything in it. But anyway, that's where they felt they were going to baptize us at. And so I got a fond memory of being a young boy. My Uncle Dave Harris was our Sunday school superintendent. And they made us go to church back in those days. There wasn't no choice. And so me and my brother, instead of us going in church like we were supposed to do, we were shooting marbles on the church ground. So he came by and called us shooting marbles. Yes, he did. And made all them boys go in the church and apologize to the church for coming to church and not coming inside, shooting marbles on the church ground. And they were strict about those things back in those days.
At that time, they called it begging the church pardon for making mistakes. So he had us up in front of all the other members, and we had to beg the church pardon for sinning it. Yeah. Shooting marbles on the church ground. So it's sacred ground. Sacred ground.
when it was cold, we had a big heater in the center of the church. And but it kept the church warm. But when it's hot, we had to have pasteboard boxes, fan, go let the windows up. It was miserable, but we lived it. We fan. But thank God we outgrew that.
Back when we was young adults, and one thing we used back in those days when somebody died in the community was the towing of the bell. As a matter of fact, we transferred our bell from our original church into this foyer now. We don't use it like you do. When somebody died in the community, they didn't go out to that church and they're towing that bell. Hear that bell tone. They know something happened, somebody died in that community. And that was a sign that everybody would meet up at a certain place. They had a dozen other places to go to, and they would meet up at a certain place, and they'll pray and comfort whoever had passed in that time. But the bell, we got our original bell in our foyer out there, but we don't have the rope hooked to where we can tone it anymore. But we still got it out there. That's one of the things I remember vividly back in the day when it would be dum, dum.
Right. Yeah. You know something had happened. No, somebody had died in the community, and there's a history behind that bell. Sister Catherine Brown, who was Deacon Henry Brown's wife, who he passed, but he was here when we built this sanctuary back there. She told a story that there was a church in a lot of folks in this community, and he mentioned it earlier, is from Clark County, a little place called Carlton. Now we know Baldwin County here and Clark County up there, but the Alabama River is right there.
Separate us,
And they was on the river on that side in Clark County. We was on the river on this side in Clark County, but everybody over there was related, so everybody over here was related. So the guys from over there came over here and found wives, and then the ones over here went over there and found wives, just like we had to do. Because we in Little River, we relate to everybody, so we had to pretty much move to Bainbridge to find wives.
And really true, that's the history of my grandparents. That's how they met.
That's how they met.
From Clark County over to Baldwin County. And that's why he came across the river and met my grandmother.
Right. Two brothers married two sisters.
Two sisters.
Yeah, right. Because Joe Moses and Nellie Moses had a daughter named Emma Moses. Yeah, and she had a bunch of girls. And the Hampshire family had a sister named Victoria, and our great granddaddy, Israel French, came over and married her, and had our granddaddy, Isaac and Abraham. Our grandfather named Abraham, and his brother was named Isaac, and so they married Lizzie and Lula T, and that's where the French family got it. It just grew and grew and grew. Because Uncle Ike, which is Isaac, and Lula T, they had like 21 kids. 21 kids.
Now you have to realize now, back in those days, we farming, sharecropping.
Right.
So the more you had, the more work you got.
More work you had.
You can eat.
Yeah, right, yeah. They had 21 kids, and they taught us, because we live, like I said, in the edge of the swamp, where there's plenty of game and food and fishing, and they taught us how to fish, how to hunt, how to live off the land. And they had a hard time making that $16 it needed every year to pay those taxes on that land, because that was a lot of money back then. And some of them lost their property because of that. But they used the land to survive, and they fed us well. We was healthy. We was clean. We didn't know we was poor,
right?
But we was. But this church helped sustain the whole community.
Come on, Tron Wide, she was the Janet, and she was towing the bell. She was towing for Sunday school, and then when church out, and then she turned around towing for church for us going. But when somebody died, oh my God, she toned it. And it was sad. You could hear it all over around here. And the first Sunday, we went to Tate chapter. Everybody went to Tate chapter. Members, all the members go. Second Sunday, they came to Tate Creek. Tate chapter members come to Tate Creek. Third Sunday, we went to St. Joe. All the members in Tate chapter and all of them went there. Fourth Sunday we went to Mount Tryon. We walked. And Mount Tryon out there on 59. But we had a road to go down through and come out and walk. It wasn't hard for us walking because we were laughing and we weren't having fun. So that's the way they rotate the churches. And the church would be full. It wouldn't be like it is now. It would be full. And we would have a good time.
When I was coming up as a young girl, like I said, I remember, like she's saying, all the older ladies and what we learned in church because, like she said, they had to walk everywhere. When I was coming up, I remember the ladies of the church. My auntie was part of that crew, and my mom and some other ones like Miss Hattie Mae and Miss Estelle and all of them. We would be taken to their house every month or every 2 weeks. We would go. We learned how to do Bible study. They taught us how to quilt. They taught us how to sew. All the older ladies took the younger girls under their wing, and we had to go, and they taught us how to be young ladies in the church at that time. They taught us a lot of things. One of the things I can remember, I never knew how to crochet, but my mama and my Aunt Lula Pearl, and they always said, "Gal, you ain't gonna get it." But I learned how to sew. I learned how to make quilts, but that crochet, I could never figure out how to do that little needle thing. So I remember that. And you remember when we was down to Miss Isabella July, she had this big stove in the middle of her floor. We would all have to sit around there, and like she was saying, when they learned how to pray, read the Bible, they were actually teaching us how to do Bible study as well back in those days.
And also we learned how to get a Pyrex bottle, a big Pyrex
Clorox bottle.
And make a hat.
Yeah. Back in the day, we get the Clorox bottles that you see now, and the ladies would cut the top of it off, and they teach us how to make hats. And that's some of the hats that the older ladies wore back in the day.
Right.
With crochet. With the crochet. Yeah.
And I think that's why we as deacons now continue to be a part of this church because of the tradition, the history of it.
Yeah. And the community.
And the whole community. And that's why I try to instill my children to be a part of this church. We've been here 158 years already. Yeah. And I'm 67, I'll be 67 in May. So if we can't train them to continue the legacy of ours, we want this church to be here another 158 years.
Yeah. I was an usher back then. I was a choir member back then. I was the second leader of the choir. We had a junior choir. And then I was a junior usher in the beginning. So the president, we had our book. You have to stand back to the door. We had a certain place we had to sit stand in the church. So I always stood to the window part. And I like to stand there. And so when people come in, we always greet them with a smile. They always tell us we can't be looking mean and mad. We got to beat them with a smile, whether you don't feel good or not. So we get our position. We had to be at the church at 15 minutes to 11 o'clock. And I used to tell the deacon, y'all need to start church. Y'all need to start church. It'd be 11 o'clock. And one of the deacons would tell me, shut up. We know when to start. So, don't supposed to go on like this church, don't go on that side. You stay on your post. And then you, back in the old days, we had a tray. We used to come to the thing and take up, the deacon would be standing up there and have trays. We get them and go down east side and take up the money, but now we don't do it. So that's where we are. Well, we had a choir member. I was a choir member. I was the second leader. My sister, Sarah Pearl, she was the first leader. And May Raleigh was our musician. And we had a good choir. So we had our meeting every month, have our usher board meeting every month. And most of the time when we get through our usher board meeting or choir meeting, we would practice singing. And the usher boy was the same way. That's how I learned, because I wanted to learn what I want, be in, so that's how I learned.
And we thank God that God has blessed us to have an edifice like this building up here. And get back to how we get to where we're at now. Sylvester Williams had a vision. We outgrew this other church. We had a large membership. He had a vision of one of the larger fellowship, a sanctuary. And then when he constructed the new sanctuary in 2003, we built this part here. And it accommodated 300 people in here.
And at that time, our membership had dwindled. It wasn't a lot of folks here, probably 50?
Maybe 50. But God, we were so blessed, we went out and took out a $150,000 loan. But we didn't get a general contractor. We subbed it ourselves. The deacon did. Got out and found somebody to do the foundation, somebody to do the brickwork, somebody to do the roof in phases. And God blessed us to pay the church off $150,000 in 17 years.
We had a mortgage burning ceremony last year, right?
Last year. With
last
30
year.
members.
Yeah, with 30 so members. And he also gave us the insight to use what we have. So when we built this new building, we connected it to the old building. This is the sanctuary, then we got the classroom, and then we got a fellowship hall on the back of it. So all that's connected from those two churches, they all still being utilized.
So through the years, God has blessed Tate Creek to do a lot of things within this body of believers.
That old adage that it takes a village,
Yeah.
it truly took a village
To get to the point
to
here.
raise us the way we and we've been successful, not through what we've done, but through the grace of God. And we thank him for that every day, and we praise him in this building. When we had our marching in ceremony into this building, we moved from back there up here. There was prayers prayed that the Lord and his spirit move from back there with us and fill this place too. Just like they did when Solomon built the temple.
Welcome. My name is Pastor James E. Richardson III. I'm the pastor of the Tate Creek Missionary Baptist Church here, and I'm here to introduce the pastor, Sylvester Williams, and I'm here to let him tell you his side of the story as to what pertains to the history of the Tate Creek Missionary Baptist Church. Pastor Williams, why don't you tell us a little bit about the history that you have here with this church?
Well, Pastor Richardson has been very interesting in for us me coming here. I came up here to support another guy, and from that, I became the pastor of the church.
Wow.
And because one of the guys dropped out, and so I ended up pastoring Tate Creek. And one of the things that when I first came here, we didn't have paved streets, the paved road. The road got paved.
Gotcha.
We got paved coming up to the church. We always had a well, so we end up getting water. So it's been a very interesting journey for me, for me coming here to Tate Creek and pastoring the peoples here at Tate Creek. Very loving peoples. Yes. I had a lot of support of the elderlies that was here, and but they passed on, but we still had good peoples.
Absolutely. So, Pastor, tell us your experience with the people here at Tate Creek, not just as well as just the individual, as well as your accomplishments here at the church.
Well, we felt the Lord had blessed us tremendously during the years that I was here. We ended up having a summer program. We had a feeding program, and the church was very supportive of that. And even that, the Lord blessed us to get a school down there in Stockton. So we had a big school up down there in Stockton where we presented to the community a summer program. And we also took the kids on trips, and we also fed them lunch, we fed them breakfast, and we kind of babysit for the community sometimes. But we had some great supporters here at the church. Sister Marjorie Andrew, Fanny July, and the current deacons that are here now. We had a lot of support.
So, Pastor, tell us how instrumental that Sister Andrews was with you, helping as to building the new edifice that we're actually sitting in now.
Well, I tell you the story behind that, Pastor. We had someone had broken into the church.
Gotcha.
Someone had broken into church, and we came up that Wednesday night for Bible study, and we couldn't get in this church.
Oh, wow.
We tried all the doors. We tried windows, but we just couldn't get in the church. And so we all were standing outside praying. And when we got ready to leave, the Lord said, "This is where I want you to build my new sanctuary." So all of us, Sister Andrews and the officers of the church and all of us was here together. And I drove a stake in the ground right there that night. And that is the result from the vision that God has given us for this church and for the peoples in this community.
When we called you, when I called you back last year, back in March, how did it feel to know that the vision God had given you the vision had been paid off, whereas we were able to take a 30-year mortgage, and God allowed us to pay it off in an amount of 17 years? How did that make you feel, far as you seeing your vision come to life? Not only your vision come to life, but knowing that vision is debt-free.
Well, one of the things that I was thinking about was that God had sent another man that had a vision. And all of the vision that we have come from God.
Right.
And they interact with each other. And so I was very excited to hear that God had sent a man that had another vision for where we left off at, to pay off the church and burn the mortgage. I was very excited and very impressed of your vision for the church as well. Pastor Richardson, the pastor of Tate Creek Missionary Baptist Church.
Yes, sir.
I just want to know just what's your vision now, since you have taken the reins and paid off the new mortgage, and now what are your plans for moving forward for us, Tate Creek?
Really, Pastor Williams, is to focus in on the people, pretty much our seniors. My prayers ask God to allow us to be able to extend our property and build to the right of us and make some type of senior establishment for our seniors in the area, so that they would have somewhere that they wouldn't have to travel, because right now they either have to travel to Stockton or Tensar, I believe, but we want to make it to where they have somewhere right here in the Little River community and the Blackshear community, so that they can call their own. And so we, not only the elderly, but the young people, because I believe that we're losing our young people because they have nothing else to do now. And it was different when I was coming up, when you were coming up, and when you had the youth. It was something constantly for us to do. And we've lost that. And my vision, my prayers, that God allow us to bring that back to the fold. Again, I'm standing on your shoulders as well as Pastor Weeks' shoulders, even Pastor Baker. Even though he had a short tenure, he's still done some things that I can stand on his shoulder. The very instrumental people, as far as you and Pastor Wheat and the former pastors before that, I have a good stature to stand on, a good stability, a good foundation. And so we want to take that and we want to build from that. We're on the right path. The Bible, of course, the Bible tells us that God will add to the church daily. We get in a hurry sometime, and well, God, when are you going to send our members? But we have to understand that He's going to add as He sees fit for us. And here lately, the last couple of months, people have been coming, and my focus, my main concern is that they don't just join church,
Right.
but be dedicated to church.
Right.
And that's something that they often say, Pastor Williams, was adamant about people being dedicated, and that's one of my pet peeves. I love for people, don't just join.
That's right.
Be adamant.
Amen.
Be dedicated.
That's
because
right.
we can fill a pew with anybody.
That's right.
I can go and get limbs and fill a pew. But
Amen.
we want dedicated people.
Amen.
So it's been a pleasure. And Pastor, I just thank God, for you taking this time out to come and share with us here in Blackshear, and doing this interview with us.
Yes.
To, give us your outtake on the history from your point of view and the members that you had at Tate Creek, and allowing me to express my little 2 years here, my little tenure. But I look for more. I look for more great years to come.
Yes.
As we're getting ready to celebrate 158 years,
158.
I thank God that He has allowed us to be here.
Amen.
So, Pastor, I want to thank you for allowing me to come and sit down with
Yes,
us.
sir.
Thank you so much.
And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity
Absolutely.
to come and share some things with you as well.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you, Pastor
so much.
Richardson.
Thank you.
To close things out, in our 158 years, we have had approximately 21 pastors here. In the last 38 years, we have had 3. It's a blessing. 3 years. And that's Reverend William, Reverend Darrell Baker, and our current pastor, Reverend James Richardson. And they've been instrumental in the last 30 years of keeping this here fellowship going in Jesus Christ's name. And we're so thankful that y'all can archive the history of Tate Creek Baptist Church and display it to other people to see where we came from in 1862 to where we're at in this present time in 2020.